Dare to be yourself. Why would being yourself be daring? Anybody thought about that? Why would daring to be yourself or being yourself be daring? Why? Anybody heard of the term catfishing? Familiar with catfishing? A few people. And I'm not talking about, the kind, that southern delicacy that we roll in cornmeal with some spices and we fry it with some hush puppies and some slaw and some spaghetti and some sweet tea with lemon and some Kool-Aid or whatever else you have. Yes, I'm getting hungry too. But I'm not talking about that kind of catfishing. I'm talking about catfishing is a term that is used these days in conjunction with social media, where people will represent themselves to be someone they're not, most often in pursuit of a romance. So a person may go online and they may see somebody's profile that looks really, really, just sexy and alluring, and they may be muscular or they may be curvy, and all of those things that people get hooked on, and they get the appeal of that person, and so they begin online communication and they go back and forth, and I'm amazed that sometimes people will go years without ever really meeting the person in person, and when they finally do, there's a television show on MTV where it's called Catfish, where they try to help people to meet the person they've been communicating with all these years or all this time, and when they finally do, most of the time, the person is not who they have presented themselves to be. And it's called catfishing. You kind of put something out there to see who you can hook, who you can draw in with the bait that you use. I'm not talking about that kind, I'm talking about that kind of catfishing where people have somehow come to believe that it's okay to represent themselves as something else. And catfishing isn't just reserved or representing ourselves to be something that we're not. It's not just reserved to social media, and it's not just a phenomena of this time. Because for as long as people can remember, we can remember, people have been representing themselves to be other than who they are. I mean, if you think about all of the ways that people are enhanced surgically, I won't talk about that. Or how people will make themselves up or will do certain things to appear to be other than what they are or other than who they are. I remember years ago being on a search committee for a particular organization I was affiliated with, and we looked at various candidates, and I remember one of the people who walked in who had placed on his resume that he had graduated from the same seminary that I did, and I knew that he in fact had not, and I saw all of these other things that on his resume that were not true, was not who he was not. And when he walked in the room, if you saw the look on his face when he saw me sitting there at the table, could have bought him for a quarter. People do that so often. And so then, dare to be yourself. It comes from the book, this thing called You by Ernest Holmes. There's a line in that book where he says that when we think about it, that no two people are alike. No two people are alike. Therefore, there is something for you to do, and that's to be you. That the perfect pattern will be imperfect without you being you. Dare to be yourself. That's one of the 3 books that I'm reading simultaneously right now. I'm reading this thing called You. I'm rereading Our Spiritual Resources by Joel Goldsmith, and then I'm reading The Power is Within You by Louise Hay. Just as I was getting ready to start that book over again and I heard word of her transition, I said it's a good time to revisit Louise Hay and The Power is Within You. And there's a section in the book, we've been using it on the morning prayer call, where she talks about 10 ways to love yourself. 10 ways to love yourself, because she mentions that if we want to make change and if we want to be the people that we are called to be, if we want to dare to be ourselves, there's 10 ways in which we can love ourselves, because it begins with loving ourselves. It begins, rather than trying to be something that we are not, accepting ourselves for who we are and loving that self. So I'm not going to give you all 10 today, but I'm going to give you 3, the first 3 that she suggests that I think that are important. The first one, she says, is to stop criticizing yourself. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop it. We all have done it. We all do it. We criticize ourselves without understanding the fact that if we continue to criticize ourselves, we are not doing ourselves any favor. And the thing of it is that when we are critical of ourselves the most, because we know we can all be our own worst critic, one of the things that begins happening is that we attract other people that do, guess what? They criticize us too. They reinforce the criticism that we have been saying about ourselves, and sometimes they don't even have to say much. And we take what they said to be the criticism that we have been visiting upon ourselves. They don't have to even say anything sometimes. Sometimes they can look at us, and we will take that look to be that somehow they are judging us, they're criticizing us. It may not be it in the first place, but we have gotten so caught up in it that we continually criticize ourselves. And the thing that we need to do when it comes to self-criticism is stop it. Stop it. We are a creation and the expression of all that is. And when we learn how to accept ourselves, and see, a lot of times this self-criticism goes way, way back. It goes all the way back off the times from when we were growing up. And we had people that would say things and do things to us. I was listening last night to Steve Harvey talking about his career, talking about his childhood. And I'm not necessarily the greatest Steve Harvey fan, but I do admire the man for the drive that he has and the accomplishments that he's made. But he told the story about how when he was in school and they were asking the school students what it is that they wanted to be, what kinds of things they wanted to accomplish. And he said to his teacher he wanted to be on television. Now, mind you, he stuttered at the time. And so the teacher thought that he was trying to be disrespectful and said that, how are you going to be on TV? You can't even talk well. How are you going to be able to be on television and represent yourself? You are nothing like those people are on TV. And he said, but I still want to be on TV. And so his teacher got so upset with him that she sent a note home to his parents to say that he was being disrespectful in the classroom and unrealistic. So he says that now, because he's on television 7 days a week, that every Christmas he sends the teacher a new television to make sure that she's able to see him. In fact, she says, he keeps telling him, baby, I already got enough TV, so I have to keep giving some of these away. He said, I know, but I want to make sure you see me on television. Like I said, I was going to be on television. But it goes way back. And we get so caught up in that. And oftentimes, that criticism can be crushing. But we don't have to buy into it. Because you've heard me say this over and over and over again, and I mean it. It doesn't matter what they call you, it's what you answer to that makes the difference. When we learn that, when we get a hold of that, and we stop criticizing ourselves, we allow ourselves, I talked about last week, grace, and grace meaning that at the particular time you made the best decision that you could based on the information and the circumstances that you had. And even if you did something you regret, even if you did something that turned out not to be what you would say the right decision, even if you did all of those things, give yourself some grace, because sometimes those decisions are responsible for you being where you are right now. And you might have looked at it and said, maybe I should have been with this person, maybe I shouldn't have taken that job, maybe I shouldn't have done this or that. But when you put it all together and look at the big picture, you would not be where you are today without those things. Give yourself some grace and stop it. Stop criticizing. Understand that? The second thing Louise says, stop scaring yourself. Stop scaring yourself. In particular to health concerns and all of that, because what happens is, as soon as we get sick or something is not feeling well, we come up with all of these scenarios that it might be. We start to think that all of a sudden we have this or we have that. And she says that some people who have illnesses and things like that, they start planning their funerals. They start really going to the extremes. I remember years ago when I was serving as a pastor in Dallas, there was a woman I would go to her house to visit because her mother lived with her. Her mother was not able to get out anymore, and I would carry her communion. And so I remember one day, after I served her mother communion, the woman invited me to come and sit with her on the porch. And so I came and I sat down, and she began to talk to me. And she started telling me about the fact that she was not feeling well, and she felt like that she had this particular disease. And see, back in those days, before the internet, what we had to help us disperse health information and all of that were talk shows. And she happened to have seen on Phil Donahue a man that was on there from a particular organization that was talking about this disease. And because we didn't have internet in those days, what you had to do at the end of the show, they would tell you, write into us at this address and we will send you a pamphlet with information on the disease. And so she said, I sent this letter off to them, I described my symptoms and everything like that. And so when she gave me the information that they had sent her, and she said, this is what I think I have. And when I looked at it, I said, they're telling you in the letter, you are probably not someone who has this. And she was saying, yes, I do, because the way they were talking about it on television, I think I am. And I hope that I would last before Mama dies, because somebody needs to take care of her and this or that. And I said, but they're trying to tell you that you are not a white male over 50, where this disease is prominent for. And she still didn't quite get it, so I said, okay, be all right. Next month rolls around, carried communion to her mother again. She asked me back out on the front porch again. We sit back out there. She's got another pamphlet, another disease. Scaring ourselves. But it happens. We get this information, we get an ache or pain, we get something else that happens. We look at the news and we get so absorbed in the news. And if you get absorbed in the news in the way so often people do, they will have us afraid to move. Yes, there are things that are not going the way that we would wish them to be. They were not optimal ways of living and being and doing. But the thing of it is, the great news is that still we can move. We can help to be a part of the change that we wish to see. We can do all of those things. But sitting hunkered down in our houses, talking about how bad crime is, talking about how bad things are, this and that, it immobilizes us and doesn't enable us to be about the change. I had to switch off the social media this morning because there was a guy that was on there that was counting all of the stuff that had happened over this weekend, all of the things and shootings and all of those things. I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to see that. We were talking about the other day on the news where there wasn't a shooting in Memphis that particular day, so they had to go all the way over somewhere in Arkansas to find it. If it bleeds, it leads. To find something. And so we get scared. I have a friend that moved way outside of Memphis that loves to call us murdering Memphis. And I asked her, I said, so has anybody you know been murdered? She said, no. I said, have you murdered anyone? She said, no. I said, have I murdered anyone that you know of? Have other family members of yours, your mother still lives in South Memphis, has she murdered anybody? No, and I'm not discounting that. But to repeat that mantra over and over and over again makes us scared. It makes us fearful. It detracts from us really living. It pulls us back from daring to be ourselves. We can be a part of the solution, but we have to move beyond being scared or being scared. And then the 13th thing that Louise Hay says is that we have to be kind and gentle and patient with yourself. Kind and gentle and patient with yourself. It kind of goes back to the first thing, but we can be so hard on ourselves. And there are times that we have to recognize and to realize that we can be kind and gentle and patient with ourselves. We can allow ourselves to be in a state of grace and receptivity to understand that the divine presence is loving us despite of all the other stuff, despite the exterior things, despite where our minds might have been. But if we are kind and gentle and patient, because she goes on to say, because we all make mistakes. We all do. I mean, I know that a lot of times people would want to be a perfectionist and have everything perfect. And then they get all bent out of shape when they make mistakes. But we all make mistakes. But mistakes actually can be building blocks to where it is that we want to be, to who it is that we want to become. That ultimately, when we learn how to put mistakes into perspective, they can help us to grow. They can help us to grow. The thing of it is that it's not about making a mistake, but it's what we have been able to learn from the mistake. And sometimes if we have not taken the time, and that's where patience comes in, to step back for a moment and see what the lesson is in that, we will be repeating the mistake before we realize it. You think about it for a moment. Situations and circumstances, relationships, all of those things that we find ourselves thinking, what was I thinking? And then we realize, I said that the last time. I said that the time before. Well, maybe it's time to break the cycle and ask, what can I learn from this? What is the lesson in this? What is life teaching me? What is life holding there for us? Because the thing about it is that, as Pima Chodron talks about, that we will continue to make those mistakes until we learn the lesson that's in them. And so when I look at the things that we've talked about when we talk about daring to be yourself, Joel Goldsmith in his book, Our Spiritual Resources, that's probably my favorite, no, it is my favorite Joel Goldsmith book. My book is dog-eared and torn and everything else. But he talks about the fact that in living life, the important thing is what he calls bringing God into daily experience. And it's not that God is somewhere that we got to get God. Oh, God, please come right where I am. I beg you, I'm a miserable sinner, I'm not worthy. Please come. No, no, no. He is talking about us recognizing and being aware of God in all that we do. And he says one of the perfect times is first thing in the morning when we wake up. Rather than getting up and rushing through our day, rather than picking up our phone, because you've heard me say that the face that we see most often nowadays is the face of our phones, our smartphones, rather than turning on the news and getting caught up in that, rather than all of the other things that we make a part of our day, and they get us in a routine and we get all bent out of shape and stuff starts happening and things start going on, that the first thing that we do is to become aware of our breathing. We become aware of our breathing. We begin to acknowledge that we are an expression of all that is. We may say thank you. Not thank you for any particular thing, but just simply thank you. We might then in that place begin to understand and to know that wherever we are, God already is expressing through us the fact that we woke up. is proof that God is expressing as us, through us, in us, around us, over us, all of those things. Beginning to understand that as we move through that brief period before we even get out of bed. And then, as we do so, we pause. And he talks about feeling that click, as he likes to mention, that says that God is on the field, that click that lets us know that we are connected with the divine. That click tells us that, yes, stop criticizing yourself. It tells us stop scaring yourself. It tells us to be kind and gentle and patient, because collectively, together, we got this. Helping us to understand that when we have made that connection, you got a whole day ahead of you. And how are you going to show up and meet that day? How are you going to get out of bed now for that day? How are you going to move through the remaining hours of the day representing and being that expression of God that is you, unique and individualized in every way? Because again, remember him saying that the perfect pattern is imperfect without you. No two people are alike. Nobody, I always like to say, you are an unrepeatable historical event. Nobody can outbe you being you. And you ought to be the best you that you can be. I can't be like Charles. Charles can't be like me. I can't be like Simone. Simone can't be like me. I can't be like April. April can't be like me. All of us are unique and individualized, and we are the perfect expression of the perfect pattern. All of us are here, and we are contributing to the well-being of this place, this expression, this plane that we call Earth. And we are out here, daring to be ourselves. We are out here, looking good, expressing in ways that inspire other people, motivating people, comforting people, bringing joy to people. When you dare to be yourself, you may not be a television star, but you just might be the person that walks a particular way. You don't know why you did it today. And as you were making your way, there was somebody that you paused. Maybe you gave them a smile. Maybe you touched them. Maybe you gave them a kind word. Maybe you gave them directions. Maybe you gave them $1 or $2, whatever it might be. And that is you being yourself. Dare. I'm daring you to be yourself. And so it is.
So we end a love song. I almost call it a love song, but it's got like love in it a million times. All right. Time stood still for a while as I wrote this song, lovingly watching you sleep. One sacred moment, the veil disappeared. Now I see. my friend, can warm the hearts and minds of man. You first must be the change you wish to see. I was just giving a little love, getting me some. My song of love is on the radio play, sowing seeds of love a little more each time. I'm a little lost and mental side. I've crashed and burned, Lord knows I've tried, but I'm just a means to an end. Doing it. As the night closes into our speeding light, making love without a sound. Leave the past behind. All we really have is this moment in time. Don't keep the love you say. The love flows better when you give your love away. Peace and love, my friend, can warm the hearts and minds of man. And you first must be the change you wish to see. Let's all just give a little love and get us some. Come on, join